Hello, let's continue our discussion on solving multi-step equations, and still our goal is to solve multi-step equations in one variable. So for this part, this is problem number 3 wherein we have to use the distributive property when we are solving an equation, okay? So it is very direct already. As you can see, you have an expression in a grouping symbol and you have a multiplier right outside it. So first thing that you have to do is, of course, to distribute your multiplier. So this is going to be negative 8 times positive 2, that is going to be negative 16x, okay? Negative 8 times negative 1, that is going to be a positive 8. And so this is going to be equal to 36. And now you can solve your variable, solve for your variable. So first thing that we need to do is, of course, eliminate or remove our addition or subtraction, in this case plus 8. So we subtract this by 8. This is now 0 minus 8 as well. And so you will now have negative 16x is equal to 36 minus 8 is going to be positive 28. And since your variable is attached to its coefficient by multiplication, so we need to divide everything by the coefficient, which is negative 16. So we divide by negative 16, that will give us positive 1. You divide also by negative 16. So in this case, our x is going to be negative 28 over 16. But like I said, whenever you have fractions, you always have to simplify it. Now between 28 and 16, you have a common factor of 4. And so both of them, if you divide by 4, negative 28 will become negative 7. 16 will now become positive 4. So your value of x is equal to negative 7 over 4. So you can try out the next example on your own. Go ahead. So following the previous example, you distribute your multiplier, and as you follow through, your x will be equal to 6. Okay. Let's have another set of problem. Now this time, what we have are equations that contain fractions. Now, I know that a lot of people are not very comfortable with fractions, and so here's a technique that I can give to you when you are solving equations that involves fractions, okay? So, first things first, we know that we can solve one-liner, okay? If there are like 2 lines already, like numerator and denominator, it's gonna be a little bit of confusing. So our first goal is, so let me write it down here. First off is, let's remove our denominator, okay? Do something for the denominator. Do something with the denominator. So how can you get rid of that denominator? So what you can do is multiply by its LCD. Multiply by the LCD. Okay, least common denominator. So what will be the common denominator if you have a denominator 4 and 3? Okay, so the least common denominator between these two, what number, when you multiply 4 and 3, you will get 12, okay? So that is the very first thing that we will do, okay? We address the denominators, so this will be 3x over 4, this is x minus 3 equals 10. To get rid of our denominators, we use our LCD. So we multiply everything by 12, okay? This will be times 12. So let's take a look here. So we have 12 and 4. The 4 can cancel out. 12 will become 3. Okay, so you now have 3 times 3x, so that's now a 9x, okay? Then you have minus, okay, 3 and 12, if you cancel them, so 12 divided by 3, 3 is gone, 12 now will become 4, okay? So now this 4 needs to be multiplied to the numerator, so now you have 4x. Okay, And then, of course, the right side of our equation says it is 10 times 12, which is 120. Okay? And so if you are working on, this is now a lot easier to work on since you have just one line. You do not have any denominators to worry about. So here, you can combine like terms already, 9x and 4x. That will be 5x is equal to 120. And then, of course, we divide by 5. And so what we will get is going to be, so 12, that's going to be 20. Oops, sorry, my bad. 24. Okay, so 24 is going to be the value of our x. Okay. So let's have another example. This time, as you can see, it's addition, but then you have different denominators. So go ahead, try this one out on your own. So if you're going to use the previous example as a pattern, you will see that you need to find first the LCD, 5 and 4. The LCD of that will be 20. So everything needs to be multiplied by 20, and you can have it simplified as 8b plus 15b equals 60. And ultimately, you will solve b as 60 over 23. So leave it as it is. You cannot simplify that any further. Okay? So in this case, as you can see, your m is also now part of your, how do you call this, numerator. So you can try this one out on your own as well. You can use the same process as what we did in the previous examples. Go ahead. So our LCD for 9, 6, and 3, they are all could be divided, they are all multiples, they are all factors of the number 18. So you will multiply the whole expression by 18. So you can see that 1 over 9 became 2, 5 over 6 now became 15, and then m over 3 became 6m. And solving for your m eventually will be 13 over 6. Okay? So now, the next set is containing decimals this time, okay? Now, the nice thing about solving an equation with decimals is that the technique is going to be very simple. What you need to do is to make sure you look for look for the most number of decimal places. Most decimal places. Okay? So that will give you an idea what your multiplier will be. Okay? So in our case, you have 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place, 2 decimal place. So in this particular scenario, 2 decimal places is the highest. Okay? So what does that mean? It means the 2 decimal places already tells you the number of zeros of the power of 10 that you will have to multiply to make them all whole numbers. So because there's 2 decimal places, it simply means you have to multiply by 100. Okay? So everything in this example, all the numbers in this example, so we have 3.5 minus 0.02x equals 1.24. We have to multiply everything by 100. So multiply the whole thing by 100. And how do we do multiplication by 100? Well, you have 2 zeros. It means you have to move your decimal point 2 places also to the right. And so 3.5 will now become, so 1, 2, that will now become 350 minus 0.02x will now move 1, 2, so that's going to be 2x, okay? And then our last part, 1.24 multiplied by 100, 1, 2, so that's going to be 124. And so this time, it's a lot easier to work on this equation, so go ahead, continue working on this. What will be the value of x? So solving, continuing the computation here, your x will end up to be 113. So, oops, I'm sorry, that's So there's another example. So just like I said, you can just simply follow our procedure on how to solve equations with that. So let me just remove all of this, okay? So in this case, how many decimal places is the most number that we see? We have 1 decimal place, 3 decimal place, 2 decimal place. So in this scenario, you will have to multiply by 1,000 because you have 3 decimal places. All right. And so, summarize, you can solve, when solving multi-step equations, you have to form a series of simpler equivalent equations. And so to do that, you make sure you use the properties of equality, inverse operations, and properties of real numbers, okay? So make sure that you use those properties until you isolate the variable, all right?